All good things must come to an end. The perfect season is no more. And just as in 1988, where McLaren's perfect year was stopped by a Ferrari, so in 2023, Red Bull's perfect year has been stopped by a Ferrari. It may have started out as a bit of a slow burn, but the Singapore Grand Prix did not disappoint. Unless your name is Max Verstappen. Welcome to your post-race show, folks, down here in the Singapore paddock with Alex Brundle, with Jack Doohan. Guys, said in the intro there, I think we can forget the first 40 laps of that Grand Prix because the final 20 really were something, Jack. A strategic race played beautifully by Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, very. I think even from the start, the management was just exceptional. And that was keeping it almost exciting as well. The top 4 or 5 cars for almost the whole race were within 3 to 4 seconds, which is astonishing. So what a masterclass. Something very impressive and someone that I would look into to see how he's done that.
Alex, we were sitting there and for the first 20 laps, certainly, we were sort of looking at each other thinking, this isn't racing. This is the opposite of racing. It's holding back, and yet it was so key to the race.
Is someone going to race a car soon?
Yeah.
was what was going through my brain. But 10 seconds they were off, a solid 10 seconds off qualifying pace. And you could see the amount of management that was going on. Management to keep the tyre underneath him, to stop it overheating, but also management to try to bunch up the field and prevent that undercut, which of course then all goes in the bin with the safety car and VSC interruptions we had. And thank goodness we did have them, because before that it was looking a bit processional, wasn't it?
It most certainly was. It had it all, though, towards the end. Carlos Sainz putting in a masterclass, and Jack doing something which even the team hadn't have thought he was going to do. They said, why are you backing into Lando Norris? He said, no, it's intentional. I want to give him DRS. I need to give Lando the chance to fight to stop Mercedes coming through. And that worked perfectly.
No, the point that Russell got past Lando was going to be the point where it was going to become a much more difficult day for Ferrari and Sainz. So him asking for the updates from around 8 laps to go from the gap to Lando, and then all of a sudden he was at 7/10, but it was on purpose to give Lando that chance of DRS, because there's only your 2 crucial points of turn 15 and turn 7 where he's going to need to stay in front, and was able to do that perfectly.
And then even with George having a go at Lando, that allowed Carlos clean air 1.5 seconds down to turn 1. Once he got through that, he backed into Lando again to give him DRS, as you say, for turn 7, for turn 15.
Yep, back into his comfort zone. He knew everything was under control until it wasn't, but it luckily was.
Absolutely beautiful drive from Carlos there. And Alex, this shouldn't be a surprise. He's been on it all weekend. Actually, not just this weekend. He's been on it since summer break.
He really has, and he loves the balance of that Ferrari now. But what great battling this was, and a magical manipulation from Sainz of the DRS, but also Lando Norris there managing the energy system of that McLaren to stay ahead. He always seems to find just that little bit of extra deployment that the others don't in those multi-car battles.
You described it beautifully when we were up in the office. You said he plays it like a musical instrument.
He's PlayStation generation, isn't he? And yet I think you can see that when he drives the car. You always see another driver pull up alongside a Lando Norris in a traction zone, and then Lando just from somewhere finds this little bit of extra deployment, and he did that beautifully. I think the Mercedes would have been past him if it wasn't for Sainz giving him the DRS, of course, but he did a brilliant job to keep that McLaren up in the hunt.
The order, of course, got shaken up around lap 20 when the safety car came out. It was a pivotal moment in the race for Red Bull Racing in particular. They started on the hards, pretty much everybody else on the mediums. And when everyone came in on that lap 20 to shift from the medium onto the hard, Red Bull stayed out. If they'd pitted then, might they have been in the mix? Because Verstappen had made his way up to 9th, 8th place around that point.
Yeah, it would have. I think, at that point, their strategy was completely
toast, wasn't it?
It was completely the exact timing that they didn't want. Any earlier would have been fine because people wouldn't have been able to pit. They would have had to go into plan B on a double stop. So it was unfortunately worst case scenario for them. And if they were to box, then they would have had to be going into a double stop, which is also the wrong plan for them as well. So I think in the end, they managed a best case scenario to get Max into P5 in the end.
It was P5.
P5, so
and
damage
Perez
limitation. Yeah.
Provisionally, we'll talk about that.
Yes, exactly. So major damage limitation for the team.
I just don't think they anticipated having that much trouble. on the hard tyre with it being that old. Well, Christian Horner on the grid told us they were going to try something different. They did try something different. I don't think they anticipated either being so fast on the medium either. Max Verstappen coming storming back through the field. The differential between those compounds catching them out, I think.
Alex, why was the two-stop wrong for Red Bull, but right for Mercedes?
Well, I'm not necessarily saying it was wrong for Red Bull. I think it could easily have been right for Red Bull if they'd taken the medium tyre and then taken the medium again at the end, tyres permitting in their allocation. Mercedes, we sat there watching the race. We thought, goodness me, they're going to need 2 seconds a lap there through to the end of the race to catch up with that leading group. And lo and behold, there those seconds were. Yeah. It was incredible call. Charles Leclerc from the car thought that might be the right strategy for Ferrari as well. I'm really surprised that Ferrari didn't actually split the strategies to cover them, if I'm honest, but an impressive and brave call from either the pit wall or the car we didn't hear for Mercedes.
Charles was caught out, of course, right at the start by the double stack they had to do. They couldn't let him out when they wanted to because Mercedes were double stacking at the same time. He tried to play rear gunner, but in the end he just couldn't put up the defense, managed to keep Verstappen behind, but a difficult run for Charles Leclerc.
It was very smart by Mercedes, not really backing Lewis up on in pit lane, which then enabled him to back up Charles, which really unfortunately might be the outcome of his race. But yeah, definitely not what he was hoping for. It was looking like a strong 1-2 if you ask me in the first 20 laps, and then everything went pear-shaped a little bit.
There was a little bit of a slow stop in there, wasn't there? Just backed Leclerc off from that leading group, and it gave them, they looked like they were playing it beautifully at the start of the race. The buffer, the split of the two Ferraris, backing the rest of the field up, giving no one the opportunity to overtake, letting Sainz go off into the distance, to the point where it did look like they were sacrificing Leclerc, didn't it? But that slow stop then took one Ferrari out of the hunt and was a big factor in the punch-up we had over the lead and the win at the end.
Indeed. The DNFs today. Lap 1, Yuki Tsunoda, puncture, contact with Perez. And Perez has had quite a few contacts during this race. We'll talk about another one later. Ocon with his gearbox, Bottas DNF, and of course Russell crashing at the end. But the safety car came out quite bizarrely at a point for Logan Sargent. He went into the wall. We saw a bit of debris out on track. It, for me, felt like an odd call, because there wasn't a huge piece of debris, there wasn't a car stuck out on track. Could it have been done with a VSC, or was there too much littered around the track at that point?
Initially, I thought if there was just that slight bit of debris at turn 8 there, that potentially could be almost a local double yellow and something could be cleared up. Then it was a VSC, but I think due to the front wing being dragged underneath the car for such a long period of time, they really didn't have the visual on exactly where that debris had been and how scattered it had been around the circuit. So I think precautionary was the right choice to take, just to avoid any further punctures.
I think it's an issue with open cockpit cars, isn't it? It's so easy to flick up a tiny piece of carbon fibre that just finds its way into the wrong part of the cockpit or the wrong part of the driver's helmet, and then you start to generate a dangerous situation. Although we didn't see that much debris out there, I half expected to cut to a lizard, one of the monitor lizards we'd seen so much through FP1 and FP2, and find that was the actual cause of the safety car. But it definitely generated strategic options for a lot of drivers out there.
It most certainly did. Now, we go through the order. Sainz first, Norris, Hamilton. Leclerc fourth, Verstappen fifth. Pierre Gasly next up in the Alpine. Now, we were talking yesterday before qualifying, and you said, if we get out of Q1, that's a good result. One car in Q2 would be great. One car into Q3 would be great. You got that?
Yes, looking at Pierre in P6, from P12, I think any of us would have taken that at 100%. Yeah. And I think it's even more disappointing because it was so bittersweet for Esteban. We could have been P6, P7. Such a great turnaround from Monza, and back where we want to be and striving forward. But yeah, Pierre did an amazing race, and great points for the team.
You look to have had more pace all weekend. You've been hovering around that sort of edge of the top 10, edge of the points, looking decently strong. Where's the step come from? Is it just a good layout for the car?
I think it's just really, after we knew how Monza was going to play out, it was just completely a learning weekend, really trying to detach from that, know that we're not going to extract anything from it, eyes forward, and I think that's what we've done. We've come here really trying to make the most of the package of what we've got, becoming comfortable. The issue with Pierre was something trying a little bit different, not becoming comfortable going into qualifying, and that's just what set him outside of Q3, but a great recovery today.
He did brilliantly, but Esteban drove sensationally as well until it's a suspected gearbox issue that took Esteban out of the race. Putting the moves on. Beautiful moves.
Yes, and being behind Fernando, obviously working with him last year, we know how he races as well, and being shy, managing the tyre a lot, giving us the idea that potentially we have more pace, and that moment that we pushes more, he goes off into the distance. So we were being very cautious, making sure not to make that mistake, and crucially, we were able to get past him, in an interesting fight with Perez. So that was an amazing move and really important for our race, just very unfortunate with the issue.
Yeah, it really was. He had a beautiful race up to that point. But Pierre Gasly doing fantastically. Then it was, this man right here, actually.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I mean, look, I know where you
don't even know where I finished,
No,
did you?
I know where you finished. I was trying to remember where you started because it was right down the tail end. What a brilliant race coming through to P7. How was it out there? Because for the first 40 laps, it looked like everything was pretty calm, and then it just went crazy.
I don't know if I agree. The first 5 corners were pretty spicy.
Fair.
Perez and Tsunoda crashed into each other. It was all happening. So yeah, tough race, exciting race. Happy to have made up so many spots. I think had a good start, good first lap, and then was patient with the opportunities we had. So very happy with the night's work, and yeah. I see why Singapore has its reputation.
You made quite a lot of headway on what was quite a traditional strategy. We saw things weird and wonderful going on, as with all of the different safety cars. You appear to hold on to that hard tyre a bit better and make moves through the field, while others were struggling. Is that the way it seemed to you?
Yes and no. I think my first lap was a big part of setting it up for the rest of the race. I think after the first lap I was up 3 spots already, and then for the guys on hards, the safety car was the perfect time for everyone on a medium. So that helped a lot. I think we were a bit quicker than cars around us, but I think stayed patient, waited for stuff to unfold in front of us with a few people, and made the most of it. So yeah, happy with that. I don't think we could have done too much more.
In those early laps, just give us a feel for how far you are away in the car, maybe a percentage away from the ultimate pace that the car can deliver. How much do you have to give up to keep the tyre underneath the temperature envelope?
Well, I mean, even if you just look at the lap times, I think at the end we were 8 seconds off what the pole time was, which says a lot. And with these tyres, especially around here, you push for a lap to try and overtake someone, and it takes about 10 laps for them to cool back down. It's really, really difficult, and why overtaking is so tricky. Even when Verstappen went past me at the end, it was 1.5 seconds a lap quicker, but even just him being in front of me, I lost a second a lap. So it's difficult out there, and you're really just trying to not slide the tyres, baby them as much as you can. There's certainly a fine art to it, as I'm learning, and yeah, it's quite easy for it to get away from you.
Great job, Oscar. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Brilliant drive, and first Singapore experience. Sum it up for us.
Experience. Hot, and I'm looking forward to an ice bath.
I bet you are. Do you want an ice lolly?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I got told this was the whole reason I signed up for this, because I got told I was promised this.
Yeah,
so,
ice lolly.
Thank you.
There you go, mate.
Cheers.
You're very welcome. There you go, Brundle. You can have that one, mate. K-Mag, P10.
Yeah.
Do you want an ice lolly?
Yeah, I do. Thanks.
There you go. Do you want me to open it for you?
I'll have it after. I'm not going to eat it
Oh,
here
okay.
in the interview.
You look like you need cooling down.
Thanks, though. Yeah, I do.
It's hot out there, right?
It is. Crazy race. It's always it's the hardest race of the year, and feels like you're going to faint any minute. So yeah.
After that first stop, that safety car period, and you were well back down the order, kind of a big mix-up from the start. Did you think a recovery to P10 was on the cards?
No, not at all. But I did think let's just it's a boring race if you just give up. It's a long bloody race if you're not fighting. So I might as well just go for it. And the hard tire was gone. I mean, once I lost the position to Gasly and the McLaren. I think it was Piastri. I thought it was game over. The tires had just died. So, but then the VSC came, got the soft on, and just pushed the hell out of it, and got there at the end.
At the start of the Grand Prix, first 20 laps, most people were hanging on, driving to a delta. Were you driving to that delta, or were you struggling?
I couldn't really. My delta was Gasly. He was my delta. I knew if he got past, then I'd be in dirty air again. The only reason I could sort of hang on was because I was in free air. Max had pulled a gap of 3 or 4 seconds, and so I was able to just about look after my tires. But then, if Gasly had got past, my tires would have died. So.
Yeah, is there a moment where you have a sense, you look around you, you see the attitude of your car, how it's moving, you feel it underneath you, then you look at everybody else and you go, oh no.
Absolutely.
this is gonna be a painful stint. We're gonna need.
Yeah, but that's our issue right now is, especially in third air, we destroy our tires. We just cook them. So I had that opportunity because I had free air. As I said, once I didn't have that, it was tough. But the soft tire worked well. I was in free air again for a long time, and when I got to the cars, I overtook them quickly, so didn't cook them. In trying to overtake, and got lucky there with Russell at the end. So
You got a big smile on your face. How much fun is this race when you get to push like that at the end, you get to bring it, and then you get points at the end of it?
Well, I mean, it's just like even though it's 1 point, when you're in a tough period like we are at the moment, it means so much. I mean, some years you have a better car, and 1 point you're kind of disappointed, but it's incredible when you're working your ass off and it works out and you get a point. It's very important for us.
It's huge for the team, and also tantalizing, right? When you can reach out after the qualifying day every weekend and touch it, and then it doesn't come back for the race. What can the team give you? Because you guys have shown you have pace. What can they give you to move that into race day?
Well, we need a broader window on the car. It's very peaky. It's got good grip when you're not turning, but it's not so useful often. So I mean, this track, it's very stop and go. It's the corners are sort of very sharp, 90-degree corners. So you're not as exposed, in combining Gs, and that's why we could get away with it and be so good in qualifying and also kind of hang on to it. Suzuka is going to be very different. It's very long, long flowing corners. Not our favorite.
Enjoy tonight. Go out, celebrate, have fun, enjoy the ice lolly.
You too.
We'll see you next time, mate. Thanks very much. Great to hear from Kev. There you go, sir. Great to hear from Kev.
We're making it worth their while, aren't we?
It's all about the ice lollies. If there's some left at the end, we might be able to have one as well. This is one of the big things about Formula One. And people often ask, should we change the point structure? Maybe go for like an IndyCar structure where everybody scores points if you finish the race. How much that means to finish 10th today? 1 point, And we were talking earlier in the weekend about Liam Lawson's mindset change, moving from Super Formula, where he's used to winning races, into a car where making it through to Q3 is the success. Scoring a point is the success. That mindset flip. There's your race winner, Carlos Sainz, making his way through. It's really something that it's all down to just that 1 point, how much that means.
There have to be these thresholds, don't there, in the performance through a Grand Prix that teams shoot for and gain, and then that moment it's kind of a go or no go on whether you've had a good day or not. And that's a moment that will carry that team when they go back and work on the next iteration, when they try and sort the car out for a wider window on race day, when they spend the time that they have available under the regulations in the wind tunnel and work from an engineering consensus late into the night. It'll be that day. They remember they got there, they touched it, that they can lean on for their motivations.
Down in that part of the championship, Alex Albon 1 place out of the points in P11. Liam Lawson, P9. 3rd Grand Prix ever. What do you make of that?
I think, like I've been saying since Monza and also speaking yesterday, he's done an exceptional job making the most of the package. I think, what's been very lucky, he's come into a period where there has been his sprint weekends. He's had 3 full weekends. He's finished every session. He's maximising his track time. He's just getting more comfortable. And that's got to be the goal, especially for him when he's hopping in the car, is just to get the duration in, but get comfortable, and that's what he's done. And I think now he's just taking step by step by step.
He was so disappointed after Monza to have come home 11th. And he said to me when he was walking through the paddock, I have to take my opportunities. I don't know when my next opportunity is going to come. You know, I have to take my chances. Knocks out Max Verstappen on Saturday. Gains points today. This man. Come on in, man. What a great drive.
Thank you.
Congrats. Come on in. Come on in. Get you in the middle. Do you want an ice lolly?
Ice lolly?
Yeah.
What is that? No, I'm okay. You get that. I get my stuff after.
Oh, right, okay. Get something better. Get something better. Hell of a drive, dude. How hard was that?
Yeah, I must say, feels like I've done a little workout. I'm not gonna lie. It was pretty hot out there, but no, I'm very happy. Very happy. We managed to get some very good points for the team. We had good pace. We were in the battle that we expected to be in with Fernando. I think Perez tried something different, so it was quite hectic in that pack. But yeah, managed to come out on top and score some very good points.
And particularly to take this upgraded car that I know you didn't settle with immediately this weekend, to work through that process and have it all come alive in the race.
Yeah, I mean, I started like very far off on Friday and couldn't get a feel with the car. Tested quite a lot, and only in qualifying I feel like the whole weekend started. So it was quite late, but yeah, felt like yesterday didn't go as well as it could have been. But then I was confident today we're gonna be in that fight, we're gonna be in that battle. K-Mag said he will be aggressive, and he didn't lie. He was clearly he respected his words, and yeah, I'm glad my front wing is still intact. But there were some good moves out there, and I really enjoyed it.
What do you have to do to dial it in then? So you hit the ground, wasn't where you needed to be. What did you change through free practice to bring yourself into the race pace that you eventually had? Everything.
I don't know how much I can say and yeah, what I'm supposed to say, but it was a bit compromised Friday. So yeah, I just couldn't get a great feeling. I couldn't really get the marks. I couldn't get like, you know, my driving around. I didn't get the flow until Q1 when I came out and things felt better. So yeah, I think, you know, some weekends you got to work and you got to focus on certain things for the team, and that's what we did. But in the end, you know, like today, there was no way we could have got P5 with the guys ahead of us. So they told me it's to make the car faster. I said, okay, next year we'll put it on pole and then I'll forgive these guys. But yeah, it wasn't an easy Friday.
At the end of the race there, after obviously Max and Checo had made their stop, it was sort of 12 laps from the end. It was looking possible that we could potentially stay in front of Max. At what stage was it where you knew that rear tyre wasn't there anymore and you were going to have to concede?
Well, they told me basically just go for qualifying laps, and you know, the more I was pushing on these tires, the slower I was going, and you know, you're just giving everything. And I was hoping Piastri can hold him off a little bit longer, but as soon as he get past him, I mean, suddenly I looked in the mirrors and he was catching like over a second and a half per lap. So yeah, I knew they were on a different strategy. I tried what I could, but yeah, quite quickly I understood that this wasn't gonna work.
One final question before we let you go. You talk about having to do quali laps at the end there. First 20, 30 laps of the Grand Prix, you're being asked to stick to a delta, hold back. In this heat, in these cars, that kind of stress, that kind of intensity. And then at the end they tell you go for quali laps. How tough is that, physically, mentally, in these conditions?
Yeah, not easy, you know. But that's why we prepare, you know. It's like all the work you're doing in January, February, March, all the physical preparations. At the end, it's, you know, it's for that specific race, for the hardest, the toughest race of the season. You may feel good in Zandvoort, in, I don't know, Barcelona, all the other races, but it's a bit hello. But yeah, it's like it's specifically for Singapore. You can't start preparing like 2 weeks before. It was tough. Lost quite a lot of water. We had a nice safety car at some point to kind of get your breath in and get the flow back. But yeah, it was fun. I must say, I really enjoyed this track, and that was yeah, definitely a fun race.
Great job, man. See you in
Thank
Japan.
you.
Well done. Take that as well. Nice work.
The
I'll
Mike
give that to you.
cycle
The
continues.
Mike cycle continues. The driver cycle continues. And in comes, I mean, I think probably all our man of the weekend. That was sensational. What a weekend.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But now, I wanted to check. It's not your... I thought you were tying your sleeves around you. What's this?
It's just a cold. It's just to cool me down. I'm quite warm.
The new crossbody bag trend, is it?
We thought it was... We thought you were tying your sleeves around you like
This
a toga.
that would be the weirdest thing I've never seen a driver tie their.
Well, that's exactly why we mentioned
I'm not
it.
sure they would actually.
We
It's
thought
not
it was
possible.
your thing. Anyway,
It's not my
ignore
thing.
that. Do you want an ice lolly?
Oh, can I? Yeah, I'll take
Yeah.
it with me. I won't have it now, but thank
Okay,
you.
man.
I appreciate that.
There's your prize for coming on the show. Brilliant qualifying, sensational race. At one point, it looked like you were going to double AlphaTauri's entire points haul for the season, but 2 points in your second race. Third race. Sorry.
That's right.
Brilliant.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it was good. As you say, it was looking really good for a little bit, especially at the ends, but we just didn't quite have the speed. It was a bit tough. Obviously, I was trying to follow the McLaren and the Alpine in front, and I could stay with them for a couple of laps, and I'd have to cool off, and I couldn't stay with them the whole time. So it was tricky. The start was terrible, and that's on my side. I need to get on top of that because it's now 2 weekends in a row that I've lost 2 spots off the line, and it just makes our life more difficult.
Is there something specific about the starts here in F1 that are challenging you from that perspective, or is it just the different scenery, you know, and getting it right in this specific car?
I mean, I guess every team, I'm sure you know, the procedure is very different to what we're used to in other categories. So it's just something that's very new to me. It's frustrating because all the practice starts, we'll get really good launches, and then it comes to the race start and it's never there. So yeah, something we need to just get on top of.
3 races in, and on Monza, you were so disappointed with P11, and you said, "I've got to take my chances. I got to take them when they come." How much do you feel you've laid down a marker this weekend with this race, with your qualifying, with everything you've done? Because people say it's not easy for rookies to come into Formula One, and we know it's not. You've made it look, not going to say easy, but you've done sensationally.
I think, yeah, I mean, obviously you always want to come in at the start of the season and have a proper shot at it, but in this situation, I got to take whatever opportunity I get with both hands, and it's come now, and that's what I'm basically trying to do. So that's why it's really critical I maximize every session, because it's a short window that I've got. So that's really what I'm trying to do.
And how much are you looking forward to getting back to Japan? Because you spent most of the year out there, you know the circuits.
I don't know if I'm driving yet.
Ah.
But if we are, that's great. Yes, it would be. I definitely know Japan better than Singapore, so it would be great to drive there. It's an awesome track. I can imagine in an F1 car, it's nuts. So yeah, I would love to drive there.
How are you approaching driving when you just don't know what the future holds? With, you know, you don't know how far into the future you're going to be in that car. It must be such a tricky mindset to have, where every single Grand Prix could be the last one, but also could be, you know, the beginning of a long journey with the team. You just don't know.
There's so many things you can look at, and you can take all these different thoughts and completely overload yourself with pressure and things like that. So for me, obviously when I found out I was driving in Zandvoort, there was a couple of hours of anxiety and just massive pressure. But to be honest, since then it's been put aside and just focused on maximizing every single session. As you say, I don't know how long I have in this position, so it's important that every time I get in the car, I get out and look back and know that I've done everything I could.
You are impressing everybody.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks for coming on the show. Enjoy the ice lolly.
Guys. Yeah, I will. Thanks.
And we'll see you in Japan, whether you're driving or not. But if you are driving, then all the best. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. What an impressive young man.
Calm and insightful, engaging, and super quick.
Yeah.
Which is what I've seen from him in a Formula 2 car, and what we've seen in a Super Formula car. For those who follow that series, been mighty behind the wheel out there, mighty in a Formula 1 car as well.
Obviously, if Daniel Ricciardo can't come back for Japan, it has to be Liam Lawson, because AlphaTauri have gone through their entire quota of drivers for the season. They can't bring anyone else in.
Yeah, he's creating a problem for them. He really is.
It's a genuine headache.
Yeah. A lot of drivers and not a lot of seats. Never heard that one before, but they all appear to be standing in one garage at the moment. And you never know how quickly Daniel Ricciardo is going to be absolutely ready to drive again. And then they've got a very big call to make about who continues in that car.
Yeah, and going back to yesterday, him obviously making it into Q3, astonishing achievement, but then downplaying it, saying, I wish I extracted more, wish it was better, and everyone from an outside perspective going, what are you talking about? This is already such an amazing achievement, what's going on? But looking at it from a point of view, his time that he got into Q3 on was a 32.1, and then his time in Q3 was a 32.2, so he's taken a tenth slower. Clearly, that's from his perspective going, I haven't made that step, I haven't made that jump, something's not happened right here. But you can't take anything away from that. That's clearly, driver perspective going, I should have done more.
And listen, even talking to Oscar Piastri this year, a couple of races ago, he said, look, it's still not clicked for me. This is a guy who got pre-season testing, who's been in every Grand Prix, who has had the time to settle in with the team. How can it click for a guy in just his third weekend to get the starts right, to have everything come together? It's impossible, and he's performing so admirably.
What's more impressive, actually, is when the start doesn't go quite right. It's so easy for a rookie's mind to just go off, think about how that was wrong, how that should have gone better. You're lap 3, and you're still thinking about that error you made when you dropped the clutch. He appears to be able to just clear that immediately from his mind. It's such good mind management from him to have that sorted out in his head.
Yeah, it's very easy of him as well, being in a new environment, new circuit as well, and for a mistake to be made, the front wing to be gone, all in a blink of an eye, and then it's an onset as well. So to come back, I think he dropped down to P13. He'll probably be thinking, no, I don't want to have lost this amazing qualifying result. Shipping away, getting back, ending P9, that's got to be satisfying.
You're a man who's done it when you've done testing laps. It's a huge step, isn't it, in terms of complexity of car, to come even from a car like a Super Formula or a Formula 2 car and jump in to a Formula 1 cockpit. Give us an idea of that challenge, because that's a challenge that Liam has grabbed and sent, but how hard is it?
The most difficult part from his perspective right now, being comfortable a little bit more with the car, but somewhere that he's still struggling is that clutch drop, that start, and which in the end is a major part of the race, where in Formula 2 we have one clutch that is set to the bite point and one clutch that we can just drop. So we drop that, the bite point's there, and it depends on the mapping. In Formula 1, you're only allowed to use one clutch pedal, and you have to find where that bite point is. So you practice that in the garage, you practice that in the team, but it's important that you need to know exactly whether that's a point of pressure on your fingernail, a point of dropping it into your thumb. It's completely different.
Now, we have talked about it a little bit in today's show. In fact, we've been talking about it all the way through the weekend, the difficulties experienced by Red Bull Racing. Max Verstappen was hoping to continue that win streak. It did not continue. He ultimately finished off the podium and down in P5. We can, however, hear from him.
Hey Max, considering where you started, was that the best you reckon you could have done today in a very tricky Grand Prix for you guys?
I think we were a bit unlucky with the safety cars 2 times. Otherwise, I think we could have done more, because the pace on the medium was actually quite good. I had quite a bit of fun out there, but yeah, 2 times the safety car this time didn't help us. Of course, we went on the alternate strategy, and then you need to hope that it all works in your favor, and today I think it didn't. But yeah, that happens sometimes. I think overall the car was a little bit better in the race again, which I guess is the most important.
At the moment, are you kind of feeling like this is just an off weekend, very track specific, or do you think kind of going forward there is a lot of work to do to try and understand where you're losing?
No, I think it's just we really have to understand this weekend. Suzuka is of course a completely different track layout.
Great, Sam, thank you.
Clean sheet and.
As disappointed as I thought Max Verstappen would be, but I think everyone knew that run had to come to an end at some point. They were hoping it wouldn't come until the end of the season, but it's come here in Singapore.
Hearing him say that they expected more, finishing P5, the top 4 cars being so close together, them thinking that a podium was potentially in the cards. From where they were yesterday, they clearly had some confidence coming in, and really until they got onto that medium tyre at the end there, I didn't really see that pace on the hard, especially up to that point. So maybe they can see more than me. I know they can, but quick rebound.
Yeah, very quick.
I stood there in front of that car on the grid thinking, what are they going to do about cooling today? What are they going to do about strategy? It's going to be a huge adjustment for this team to not be running. Okay, they've been running mid-pack with Perez on occasion, but the team that are across Max Verstappen's car, I think are extremely likely to be a little bit out of practice in actually hustling through the midfield, having to make the big strategic calls. Could they have two-stopped today? Yeah, maybe. Are they going to be back out front in Japan? Yeah, probably. But it was interesting to watch them paddle for the surface, wasn't it? That Red Bull team.
Red Bull will not get that perfect season. No team in history has. Well, two teams kind of have. We'll go into that in a minute. Let's hear from Christian Horner first.
Now by Christian Horner. Christian, the end of an immense run of consecutive wins for the team and for Max. Today, difficult day, difficult weekend. How do you reflect?
Well, look, first of all, congratulations to Carlos and Ferrari. They did a great job today. For us, it's been a remarkable run. It was always going to come to an end at some point. To have done 15 in a row, it's been an incredible performance for the whole team. And, it was an exciting race today for us. That safety car couldn't have come at a worse time. That really killed any chance of getting into contention. But, Max's pace at the end there, Checo coming back through as well, was a very strong performance.
Can you talk us through what your approach was coming into the race today? What did you have your eyes set on in terms of target? What did you think was possible?
Well, when you look at the statistics and of the analysis, it was saying, P7, P6 or 7.
Okay.
So, but then, we've not been one to really read too much into statistics. So, we followed a game plan. We went aggressive with a strategy,
You did, yeah.
Which really relied on there being a safety car either early or later. The point that it came out was probably the worst possible point. It killed our strategy at that point. It gave the leaders all a free stop, and then you're effectively a further stop behind. So, but the pace that Max had at the end to be fighting with Leclerc there at the finish line was a great comeback.
It was an exciting race right to the very, very end there. But can you talk to us about this weekend as a whole and what hasn't clicked for the team? Because we've seen there's been struggles throughout the weekend, the drivers not feeling entirely comfortable in the car. Where has that come from? What were the issues? Have you been able to pinpoint it?
I think that we learnt a lot in the race. There's a lot of things that need further analysis, but the performance of the car in the race was much better, and I think that we got a few pointers, which direction that's leading us in, and hopefully going to Suzuka, different type of circuit, hopefully we can be competitive there.
So you're feeling good about Suzuka after this weekend?
Look, we're looking forward to going to Suzuka. It's always a great race, and it's a good track, and for us, Mercedes didn't take too much out of us in the constructors, so I think we got another chance there.
Thank you so much for joining us, Christian.
Lovely to hear from Christian, lovely to hear from Ariana as well. Now, of course, there is another driver in that Red Bull. That was Sergio Perez, who had a much more difficult day than Max Verstappen, making his way through the field. Obviously, there was contact on lap 1 with Yuki Tsunoda. But, Jay, you noticed something, actually, on the final laps that involved Sergio and Alex Albon, as we were talking about that part of the battle.
Yeah, it was the point where Liam started to struggle, the last sort of 6-7 laps of that race, and that enabled Alex to close up onto Liam as well. Sergio was coming on those fresh and medium tyres as well. Alex was clearly keen to get past Liam, so was Perez. He was wanting to recover more, and a late, probably not on move, just didn't really go right, and into that tight hairpin, just a lock up and into the side of Alex.
Because we didn't see this on the broadcast, but Jack had noticed it and went back and watched the onboards and found it, and we've now managed to find it as well, so you can see this as well, what happened between Alex Albon. So here is onboard with Sergio Perez into an ever-closing window.
Wow, he's right down the inside there. I mean, the rules on side-by-side contact there actually say that as long as he's got his front wheel alongside the inside of the rear wheel of the car ahead, that's the steward's directive on those side-to-side contact, he will actually be okay. We've seen Alex Albon. We've seen it's under investigation. That came up in graphic over the international feed. We've seen Alex Albon whisked out of the pen here,
to go down
with his team manager, and appear to go off to the stewards and back. So we'll see if there's anything about that. But clearly, contact. Both drivers obviously making the end of the Grand Prix.
We can give it another look, and I mean, obviously it's slowed down quite a lot, so I know that probably takes some context out of it.
It's also a very slow corner, and it's a hairpin, so very easy. Even if you went from far back and were to almost T-bone the guy, you're going to be in front of his rear left wheel.
That's
yeah.
I'm gonna say he started that move. Alex has already turned. Alex has committed to the corner before he even brakes.
Agreed.
In my opinion, you clearly know how this goes as well. But when I watched that, I saw, Alex was already, in my opinion, releasing the wheel, or not releasing the wheel, but preparing the exit, thinking about Liam. He wouldn't have even had any worry of Sergio coming in.
Williams will want to argue that because, with Albon in P11, if he can make up a position into 10th, it would give Magnussen another point, it would give Lawson. It does a lot to that fight in the championship in those final positions.
Shuffle,
it's really, really important. Every point down there counts. So, yeah, a little clumsy perhaps from Sergio Perez. We wait to see what the stewards say about that. But that's pretty much our top 10, I think. Yeah, we've covered everybody off there. We haven't spoken about Fernando Alonso, who was having a fun day until he was having a horrible day. He passed 100,000 kilometres today. Kilometres raced in Formula One. That is mighty. I mean, that is absolutely huge. And then his day just turned into a bit of a disaster.
It did, with the 5-second penalty for being outside the white lines on pit entry, which is a really weird moment, actually, for Alonso. We wondered if he had some debris underneath the car or anything, because it didn't appear to be too much of a reason why he would end up wide.
Just overcooked it, didn't he?
Looked to just overcook it on the way into the pit entry.
I saw a few drivers doing that in practice as well, which is just a reprimand. Obviously, not following race director's instruction, but what a tricky pit entry, though. Yeah. Usually, you have that wall there, you're going to keep margin. There's no wall, you have some curb, there's margin to take, and that's going to change as well. You're on a used tyre, coming in for your pit stop. It's a long pit here as well, so trying to make that time is very crucial. And yeah, clearly just overcooked it.
It was a very un-Fernando Alonso end to the race for the Aston Martin driver. We hope, of course, to see Lance Stroll back in his car in Japan. Only 19 drivers took the start of today's Grand Prix. Now, one driver who was fighting for the win and ultimately didn't finish the race was George Russell. I think we've seen the replay already of his accident. Lando Norris, right rear into the wall. George Russell. Now, you had a beautiful way of... here it is, actually. You had a beautiful way of describing this, which is that he's following Lando's gearbox at that point.
Yeah, he's lined it up with a gearbox, and so often you just get sucked in to the driver ahead of you, following the line in. George Russell trying to open up the corner more. We actually saw the McLaren of Lando Norris crab its way to the line. So there was a bit of rear right damage to that McLaren with the car moving around in the straight line for Lando. Obviously, George's contact more significant, put him straight off into the wall. But yeah, you just get sucked in behind the driver ahead. You're watching him, you're not watching the scenery, and then you join it.
It's exactly that. Let's hear from George Russell for his view on how things shook out on that last lap.
Hey George, you were the fastest man out there today. I know you didn't come away with anything, so just how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, lost for words, to be honest. I think we were half a car's length away from winning the race. Had I been able to overtake Lando when I had that one opportunity, because Carlos did such a great job at dictating the pace, giving Lando the DRS, that we couldn't give a chance to overtake Lando. And then last lap, I don't know what the hell happened there, just whether it was a lack of concentration, maybe frustration knowing that was our opportunity gone. A mistake of 1 or 2 centimetres has just put such a shadow on the whole weekend, one of which would have been an amazing weekend. The team did an amazing job, the car was great, the strategy was bang on, we were aggressive, we were bold, and it was exciting. It was really exciting out there, and just, yeah, it's heartbreaking to be standing here with no points. Definitely sums up the season I've been having this year. But as I say, there's definitely positives to take away. But yeah, nothing more to say really.
It was worth throwing everything at it, though, wasn't it? We heard you on team radio throughout going, I want to go for this win. You wanted to throw the dice. You wanted to push. You wanted to put yourself on that ragged edge. It was worth it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely worth it. I was willing to lose a position or two if that gave us half a chance of winning the race. We knew on the same strategy as Carlos, we weren't going to be able to overtake on track. And, we were bold. I was managing my tyres as I was closing that gap because I knew I needed my tyres in the best state possible for those last 5 laps, and it was a bit challenging because I had Lewis behind. He was definitely pushing harder than I was. As I said, just such a shame. It's 1 or 2 centimetres mistake, and the whole weekend was gone. So yeah, massively sorry to the whole team. You know, they deserve more. We will deserve more. But I'm not going to let it cloud my weekend.
Hard luck. Thank you.
Disconsolate George Russell, absolutely devastated by what went down there. His teammate Lewis Hamilton, of course, we heard him just before he'd taken to the podium, delighted, of course, with that, and very sort of reflective of what was a great race and a great strategy from Mercedes. Let's talk about P2 man Lando Norris, because we haven't really discussed him at all, but a great weekend, an upgraded car, did everything right, to the extent that we barely saw him.
Exactly, and I think it's almost very downplayed, his P2, but it's an astonishing result for the team, and it's almost becoming normal for them. But you know, it was a very quiet race, it seemed, for him in terms of overtakes, but he was defending for his life at the end there. And I think for the team and him to come home P2, also for, you know, in general, Oscar from coming from P18 to P7, they've got to be pleased with that.
Lando, brilliant drive. Almost came unstuck on the last lap though, Alex.
Yeah, it certainly did. You could kind of tell from the attitude of the car, even when everybody was managing, that the McLaren didn't quite have the ultimate pace. But it really did a great job to hold on to second place. You can watch out for them in Japan when both of those cars will have that next set of upgrades.
Yeah.
And they've still, they were telling me earlier on in the weekend, got more performance to grab, as you might expect from an entirely new set of upgrades from that car.
I'm putting it down now. I think they're going to fight for a win this year before the season's out. They are making huge strides forwards. Let's hear from Lando Norris.
Hey Lando, incredible race out there, incredible pressure at the end, and you held off and you worked a little bit with Carlos at the end, and you must be so pleased to have got that podium.
Sorry, I'm doing my bottle. I'm so dehydrated right now. Yes, a great race. Definitely helped by Carlos in the end. I think he knew it was the best thing for him. It wasn't just that he wanted me to have a P2 and to stand next to each other on the podium, but the best chance for him to finish first was to help me out and keep me behind him. So I think the pace was there. Like, I could have kept up with him. And I did catch him, and then he was, just trying to hold me there, but we did what we had to do. I pushed, of course, as much as I could to create a gap, and we both knew that final stint was going to have to be the stint of our life, in a way, to create as big of a gap as possible, but still look after the tyres in case they caught us, because we still need some life left to battle against them. So it was tough. I kind of expected George to get past me just out of the corner, because I lost the rear completely. But I just had a little bit more straight line speed for once and managed to stay ahead of him. So stressful. The last 5-10 laps I was just dripping with sweat, getting in my eyes, stinging. But so happy of course for the whole team.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Lando, brilliant job. You reckon they're going to be pretty good in Japan?
I think the upgrades that they've brought for this weekend, for them to be that strong on a not really laterally loaded downforce strength and circuit, when they go to Japan, it's going to be high speed. There's a little bit of stop and start, but really not much at all. So that car is going to come alive there. I think you were just talking that you think they're going to be fighting for a win this year. Potentially could be at Suzuka.
Oh. Silverstone Plus, isn't it?
Yeah.
Silverstone Plus, Suzuka. That is where they're going to be rocket ships. They're going to have both cars to play with as well.
I think they almost got a double podium at Silverstone as well without that late safety car catching out Oscar Piastri. Right, only one place to go. Race winner, Ferrari. The first time we haven't had a Red Bull on the top step of the podium this season. I think Fred Vasseur might be even happier than normal. Oh, but normal, always, whatever. 2 words as one. Let's hear from him.
Fred, huge congratulations on that victory. The first non-Red Bull victory of the season. How are you feeling?
No, it was a good one. That coming after Monza. Monza was already a good weekend for us, with good quali, a good fight in the race with Red Bull. We had the feeling that we did a step forward in Monza, but we didn't expect to have a so good pace in Singapore. But from lap 1 FP1, we were there, and I think we built up the pace from the beginning of the weekend with the 2 drivers, and it went very well. That on the top of this, I think that Carlos did a mega race today, It was everything under control. The plan was perfect with the Charles going P2 at the beginning with the set of soft, protecting Carlos, and we were a bit unlucky, it's not the right word, but affected by the VSC or safety car, mainly for Charles. But Carlos was really on control of the situation and was perfect.
It was all perfectly executed. Must feel very proud to see the team operating so smoothly. How was it though as things unfolded? We heard George, I think it was on the radio, saying that you were going to sacrifice Charles. And
this didn't come from us, it came from Russell. Russell can say whatever he wants in the radio.
Exactly, but from your perspective and from behind the
but
scenes,
he was
what
P2.
was actually happening?
He was P2 that when you are starting P3 to be sacrificed, when you are P2, it's not a drama.
Okay. And in terms of the performance, you said it took a step forward in Monza. Where is this performance gain coming from, and do you think it's going to continue into Suzuka and the rest of the season?
But we will start from scratch next week in Suzuka, and it will be a clean sheet, and we'll have to build up the pace over the weekend. But I think from Monza, perhaps that we did a step also in terms of confidence into the team, and that we are speaking about, even if the gap with Red Bull was big the previous weekend, it's also the addition of small things, and the confidence is doing a lot. But I'm not overconfident before the next one, but I know that we'll have to do the job again.
Well, huge congratulations. Enjoy celebrating, Fred.
I think I will.
Good, take care.
I don't think there's going to be a person in this paddock that isn't delighted for Fred Vasseur. The person that he is, the team boss that he is, the experience, the history he has, to take on the most difficult job in motorsport, probably in world sport, given the expectation on Ferrari, to have had the difficult season that they have and to have pulled off a win against expectations. I think everyone's going to be happy for him.
When he comes to the interview after throwing the cars on pole position and third place, in the weekend that they've got the opportunity maybe to steal a win from Red Bull, the composure he has, the humour he has to swan up and go, yeah, well, let's see. It's like that's something special, isn't it? Yeah. In a team, and that's a calming influence. How calm they were. We stood there watching that first lap on mediums from George Russell, didn't we? The first sector, the middle sector, and at that moment, what it must have been like in the Ferrari garage when they saw him take a second out of them through the middle sector. The tension must have been palpable, but I'm sure he was chill Fred throughout.
I'm sure he was, but now very happy Fred, as he always seems to be. Great to see him and the team on the top step of the podium. Wonderful for Carlos Sainz as well, showing an element to Carlos Sainz's racecraft which has been evident for years now, that it's not just the team calling the shots there, it's not just the team calling strategy, it's Carlos in that cockpit, in and of himself, taking those big calls, playing the smart game, and ultimately the difference between P1 and P2 today. Carlos Sainz, a perfect drive and his best win, and I'm sure by no means it will be his last in Formula One. A sensational drive today.
Carlos, congratulations. What a mega race, what a mega weekend. You had everything out there. You had talent, you had speed, you had your old teammate working with you. Just how do you feel right now?
A bit of everything today out there, and an incredible weekend, a perfect race, execution. We didn't get it easy. Obviously, we had our own challenges out there today, but we nailed everything that we had to nail today, and we put together a very good race to bring home that P1 that tastes, honestly, as good as it can taste.
What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the team? Because it's been such a difficult year with that Red Bull domination. You've had Fred come in, things are changing, and you've just gone and nailed it.
It's huge, but particularly proud, of putting together a weekend and putting together such a perfect execution also of the race. Not so much about the pace, because we know that this year our pace is going to fluctuate race to race, but mainly trying to execute those races in a perfect manner whenever we have a good chance like we did today. It talks very well about the progress the team is doing and how well we've progressed on that area also. So yeah, we're very, very happy, and I had to work hard in some areas with tire deck and pace management, but it worked perfectly.
Is that your best performance ever?
I don't know, it's very difficult to tell. I tell you, when I'm driving at my best, obviously I do believe that I can do some very good weekends like today. I've done my good weekends in my Toro Rosso, McLaren, Renault days, but it wasn't for wins, it was for other positions. But to do it for win taste even better.
Great stuff, congrats.
Thank you.
Carlos Sainz with a face like a 6-year-old's Will Buxton on Christmas morning when Father Christmas had bought him an AT-AT from Star Wars.
Did you
Like
already give him
that.
his ice lolly?
Carlos for
was
Father
that what it
Christmas.
was?
That was, I mean, that was kid at Christmas face from Carlos Sainz, wasn't it? Pure joy.
Utterly brilliant drive. We were just debating while we were listening into the interview, the composure of mind, the specificity it takes to think that through and deliver it, as Jack just said to me, on autopilot. I'm going to give him the DRS to keep me out of trouble from him. And we were debating whether, he's Carlos Sainz, and the reason he can think of that is because he's Carlos Sainz. We were debating whether we would even conceive of that option.
And it was such a strong decision because obviously he's got the information coming from the team knowing that George is coming, but if George catches Lando at the right time, it can be the matter of between straights that George has cleared Lando and now he's in the DRS of Carlos and it's a game changer. So it was down to perfection and inevitably what won in the race.
And time and again, Carlos from that cockpit is calling strategy and the team now is listening. They're trusting. They're not second guessing him. They're not trying to change it. They believe in him.
Absolutely so. This is a race where we saw drivers being asked to manage a pace in P6, P7, and still kind of subtly creeping towards the driver ahead because they didn't want to give up speed. Can you imagine doing that in the lead of the race with 5 laps to go and acknowledging that you have to reverse towards the guy looming large in your mirrors? They are starting to trust the drivers down there at Ferrari. I did wonder if they'd trust them even more and split Leclerc back into the same strategy as the Mercedes, but as it happened, they got the win anyway.
Well, that, folks, is all we've got time for on the show today. Ice lollies for everybody on the crew, and a big thanks to our crew, who you can't see unless we suddenly spin the camera around, but they are, I'll be honest with you, they all look disgusting. They are sweaty messes. Not everybody, but the boys all look disgusting. Everybody else looks amazing.
Ice lollies for all as well.
Yeah,
no?
ice lollies for all. You go on. You guys have the ice lollies. Here's what's going on in Japan. Schedule.
Just leave them to grab them for the floor then, mate.
Yes,
yeah?
there we go. Right, ice lollies for everybody. Here's the schedule for Japan and what's coming your way in a few days' time. The weekend warm-up, of course, comes your way on Thursday, as it always does. Oh, it's all gone crazy. Friday, 22nd of September is the day that practice kicks off, 11:30 for practice 1, 3 p.m. for practice 2. Then on Saturday, it's practice 3 at 11:30, qualifying at 3 p.m. And the race comes your way at 2 p.m. on Sunday, the 24th of September. I'm going to get a nice lolly over for Jack and one for Alex, although I think they might have melted. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in for everything this weekend here in Singapore. It may have been something of a slow burner at the start, but it turned into a stone-cold classic. Carlos Sainz, your winner here in Singapore, chased all the way by Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton. We'll see you in a few days' time in Japan. For now, though, from all of us here, it is a very warm, a sweltering, actually, goodbye.